Can you believe it? There's a gun grabber that claims that everyone agrees on this part of the Second Amendment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Katie Stone, and this is Stone's Second Sense. Before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend, because we don't gatekeep the Second Amendment. Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to believe this nonsense.
Let's talk about one of the few things that are clear as day that the right and the left agree on. The Second Amendment, there may be disagreement in terms of the right to keep and bear arms individually, but the Second Amendment also guarantees the right of a state to have a militia.
Now, there should be no misinterpretation or disagreement or any of that nonsense to the right individually to keep and bear arms because, well, let's read the Second Amendment together, ladies and gentlemen. A well-regulated militia, and this is what he's about to hit on real hard, okay? So pay attention. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I don't know how he can ignore that last part. It's pretty self-explanatory, but now that you know exactly the wording of the Second Amendment, let's let him get back to it, all right?
That militia, a well-regulated militia, was put in the Second Amendment to guard against federal tyranny. Joseph Story was an early Supreme Court member, and he said the same thing, that this is necessary to guard against tyranny. Everybody knows this. The National Guard has been viewed as the militia of a state.
And there, right, ladies and gentlemen, right there is where we disagree. Now, you can view it however you want, and you may view the National Guard as the militia. And in part, it sure could be. But I can tell you what it's not. It's not the militia that our founding fathers talked about. It's not the militia they're referring to in the Second Amendment, and it's not whatever he thinks it is. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's jump over here. We'll ask Google, all right? Google, what's a militia meaning? You see up here the top stuff, yeah. But listen really closely to this bottom part that's highlighted. In the U.S., it says historical. All able-bodied citizens eligible by law to be called on to provide military services supplemented to the regular armed forces. Okay? All able-bodied citizens. All of them. All right? All of them. Not just the National Guard. Okay? For the founders, I've asked, what did the founders mean by a well-regulated militia? This interpretation, okay, well, hold on. Let me go back to this top part. For the founders, a well-regulated militia meant the citizenry that was competent and equipped with firearms, not necessarily a formal government-controlled organization. And seeing as the National Guard is paid by the government, it's a government entity, therefore it is the military, it is the government's military. You can say it is the militia all you want, but it's not the one the founders were talking about. Goes on to say the term well-regulated referred to by being properly equipped, armed, and trained to ensure the militia could function effectively for the community and state defense. Community and state defense, not government, okay? This interpretation has emphasized the individual citizen's ability to own and practice with weapons, enabling a large adaptable force to counter threats like invasion or tyrannical government, thus serving as a check on power. It's the entire point of the Second Amendment. I mean, seriously, look. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You can't have one without the other. It's the entire point. That's why you can't pick apart the militia or the right of the people to keep and bear arms, the individual right. They are one and the same. That's why they're the Second Amendment, okay? You can't have half of it without the whole, okay? Let's let him get back to it because I'm sure what he has to say is really important and we should listen very carefully, okay?
Used by a president, the National Guard has been viewed as the militia of a state. The National Guard can be used by a president for things like war. But if a National Guard can be activated against the wishes of the people of the state and the governor to be used against that very state. How in the world is that a militia? It's not. And
It's not, because the citizens make up the militia. So how can the citizens fight themselves? Because it's all able-bodied citizens. That's the militia. All able-bodied citizens. So how would they be fighting themselves at the call of the government when they're just citizens? It's crazy, because you're acting like the National Guard is just citizens and they're not paid by the government. They are a government entity, however you want to look at it. And I know some of you probably actually work for the National Guard. No, we're not. Did they make you take the jab? Did they? Crazy. I don't think the militia of our founders would have done that, but you know, hey, they weren't paid by the federal government monthly. Let's continue.
Violates the spirit of the Second Amendment. This needs to be challenged all over the place. If Donald Trump can federalize a militia...
If Donald Trump can federalize a militia, would mean that the militia agreed with Donald Trump. If the militia was who you're referring to was actually a militia, but you're referring to a paid entity of the government, that is the National Guard, which is a military force and is not we the people. I mean, sure, there are individuals that make it up, but they're still paid by the government. You know what I'm saying? It's still a government entity, okay? They're not just people acting on their own opinions. I mean, they have to answer to someone. The militia answers to the people. Let's continue.
Of a state to use against that state, he is in clear violation of the Second Amendment. Clear violation. So if you actually like the Constitution, and you're not just somebody that uses it as a prop...
Oh, pot me kettle! Who's using the Second Amendment as a prop? You! You're refusing to acknowledge the second part of the Second Amendment that says, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's on the screen. You can see it. You're using it as a prop if you don't think that the top and the bottom part, the well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, is not the same as the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. If you don't think they are one and the same, and you do not think they go hand in hand, you are in fact using the Second Amendment as a prop, and I have no use for you. He's got a few more seconds. Let's hear his rant.
This should make you outraged. And this...
You make me outraged.
This is what Donald Trump is doing. A clear violation of the U.S. Constitution.
Your face is a violation of the U.S. Constitution. He makes me sick, okay? And he's not the only one. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there are multiple people that like to, you know, pretend that it's just the militia. This is Davey Hogg back in 2023. Now, I'm sure there are plenty more, but this is this year. After reading about the history of the Second Amendment and talking with a lot of history and law professors, I believe the Second Amendment has been intentionally misinterpreted. It was never meant as an individual right. It was created to protect state militias like the National Guard. When someone can tell me that this right here, this right here that we're looking at, that you can tell me that a well-regulated militia is talking about a government-paid entity, but not the right of the people. So you're going to tell me that the militia that's in here, that's all you want to pay attention to, is the well-regulated militia. You want to misinterpret it to be like, oh, well, it's well-regulated, it's the National Guard, because, you know, we make sure that they do this and they do that. That's not what they meant, okay? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It goes hand in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a long video. Braden's gonna be mad at me because he's gonna have to go over this and make sure that what I'm saying didn't come off too harsh or aggressive. So you guys let me know, because Braden's gonna go over it and he's probably gonna be on the fence. So you guys let me know if this came off a little too harsh, or if I landed the plane, as Braden would say, and if it made sense to you, let me know down in the comments. I know it was a rough one. I struggled with it. because it makes me very angry when someone wants to say that we're using the Second Amendment as a prop because we read it in its original interpretation that the founders wanted it to be in. So anyways, what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ladies and gentlemen, share this with a friend, because like I said, we don't gatekeep the Second Amendment. You guys have a great day.